coming to you live from Outpost 31 in Dayton, Ohio. This is the Back Corner. Welcome back to the Back Corner. I am your host, Zach. We did it, you guys. 2017 is done. It is now 2018. 2017 was a colossal failure on several fronts, especially for me. I failed myself really hard as far as being creative was concerned. I didn't create as much as I should have or needed to this past year. I did start doing this, and I've had a lot of fun doing it. But I still haven't been as, successful with this as I'd hoped to be, not in finding an audience and, just blowing up or anything like that. Just making sure that it happened. I really failed myself, and I failed the few of you that listen. I really pooped the bed on this one. But hoping moving forward not to make those same mistakes. Now, I mentioned last time in our last episode that I would be covering Zipperface in this next episode, and that's what we're going to be talking about later in a few minutes. But first, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what I had planned to do for the holiday season. I was hoping to find some obscure holiday films. The only one I really wanted to make sure, and I hunted this thing down harder than you could imagine. It was really unreasonable how hard it was for me to find this movie. I wanted to cover the 2006, I'm not entirely certain when, remake of Black Christmas that they just sort of retitled to Black Xmas. I love that movie. That movie is terrible. Now, more often than not, I don't really do it on purpose, but I've seemed to notice that I cover a lot of they're not really good films on this show, and that's not what I'm trying to do. I just want to bring attention to films that you may not seek out on your own, or something you may have had interest in, and maybe I'm just the voice that pushes you to check that out and, finally kind of pull the trigger on that. I don't like to cover bad movies. More often than not, though, that seems to be what I cover, even though I try to be generous in my reviews and such. But I really wanted to cover Black Christmas. It's so much fun to watch. I know most of the crew in that film have done everything they can to distance themselves from it. A lot of them really aren't happy about the fact that they were in that movie. And I don't blame them, because the very first time I watched that movie, 10 plus years ago, as, being a preteen, an early teenager, whatever, I was able to call exactly how every single person in that movie would die long before it happened on screen. And it was something I really wanted to cover. I'll cover it eventually. I didn't get the chance to do so for multiple reasons, but we'll move on from there, and we'll cover that at a different time. Not after Zipperface, unfortunately. I have something very special planned for after Zipperface that I'll reveal to you at the end of this episode. So, before we get into Zipperface, I also wanted to talk about a few other things that I haven't had the chance to talk about. I've watched several films this year, some of which weren't necessarily things I could cover on the show, but have had the chance to talk about. And since the last episode I did, I have watched a few things that I wish I could have covered, but had this being the latest episode since then, I didn't have the chance to cover them, and I'm not really going to cover them because they got a lot of press on their own and stuff. First thing I want to talk about that I watched is Wish Upon, which, if you remember correctly, I was just very mean towards Wish Upon. First time I saw the trailer, I covered it like almost immediately. I was watching some trailers for some stuff, and I was recording after that. Wish Upon was one of those trailers. It was about a kid a young woman who is in high school. She gets this Chinese music box, and you get wishes out of it, but they have deadly consequences. They'll kill somebody or something. And I thought to myself, wow, this looks really dumb, and I was really mean to it on the podcast a couple of times. And I took the chance. The unrated edition was available for rental, so I was like, I don't have anything going on tonight. I'll check this out. And when I first started watching the movie, I was like, wow, this looks really nice. This, the cinematography and the direction and stuff was really good. I was like, visually at least, this movie looks good. And then as it went along, I think they knew that it was just kind of silly, and they just wanted to have fun with it. And it was a lot of fun. I really regret being as mean as I was towards Wish Upon. I had a lot of fun watching that movie. It's something that I'll probably buy just to have, because it's fun to watch. I enjoyed watching that movie. So to the fine people that have worked on Wish Upon, I sincerely apologize. So the next couple of things that I want to talk about came up during the Halloween and Christmas season. Both of them are exclusives. They are streaming exclusives. The first one is The Babysitter, which is a Netflix exclusive. It's about a kid who, as we find out, has an infatuation for his babysitter, which I think most people kind of did. I never had a babysitter, so I didn't ever grow up being a pervert. I grew up as a pervert for other reasons, none of which were babysitter related. But he develops an infatuation for his babysitter and decides that tonight is the night he's gonna try to score with her because she's moving away soon. And the movie goes off the rails pretty fast. Watching the trailer, you kind of feel like maybe they gave away too much, and I promise you they didn't give away anything in that movie, in that trailer. They didn't give away squat. So definitely check that out. It's a lot of fun. It's got not really many people of note in that movie. I can't remember who the kid's dad was. He was a pretty notable face. His weird best friend you've seen in some stuff, and the only person that I know of note in the movie is Robbie Amell, who is the cousin of Arrow star Stephen Amell. You'll know Robbie if you know those shows and those guys. You'll remember that Robbie played Ronnie Raymond, the first iteration of Firestorm, and then later reprised the role as Deathstorm when they went to Earth 2. But yeah, definitely check that out. The second streaming exclusive is on Shudder, and I found last night on Blu-ray and DVD at Walmart, so it's not like a super exclusive thing, but if you want to stream it, you can find it on Shudder. You can also find it at Walmart on Blu-ray and DVD. It's called Better Watch Out. Pretty similar kind of thing going on with Better Watch Out. Kid with his babysitter, and there's a home invasion. And that's really all I can tell you about that movie without giving away any of it. Like that movie goes off the rails really fast too. But they're both a whole hell of a lot of fun. You should definitely check those out when you have the chance. So, moving on to the main event, Zipperface. So, when I talked about Funland an episode or two ago, I had mentioned that my mom cared a great deal for us, and I was always looking out for wacky entertainment for us, would buy us these random movies all the time. Just, she'd find them and be like, hey, I think the guys would like these, and pick them up for us. So one day she comes home with this movie. And if any of you have ever owned a Nintendo Wii, you'll remember that when you get your Wii and you have your Wii Sports game, it's in a really crappy, flimsy paper case. Well, nowadays, if you go to the dollar store and you look in their bargain DVDs, the ones that don't have cases, they're in these really crappy paper cases with like a clear plastic front so that you can see the disc. Zipperface was not it was in a crappy paper case, but it had like cover art and a synopsis and pictures and stuff on the back of it. One of those that like you kind of like split the tape on the side and like you just kind of dump out of the paper, So really, really similar kind of thing as to the Wii Sports and bargain DVDs at dollar stores now. So my mom picks up this movie called Zipperface and she brings it to us. Now, the first time I watched this movie, I only remembered the first few minutes of it because I don't think I ever actually watched it all the way through. Well, I did that for this show. I did this several weeks ago because I care so much about you guys. And apparently I hate myself. So, as we get into tonight's film, let's talk a little bit about Zipperface. Zipperface is a very, very... It looks like it was a made-for-TV movie in the early 90s, but with the language and stuff that they use, I don't think that it was. I couldn't find anything about where it ran initially. I mean, maybe it ran on like one of the premium movie channels or something. According to Wikipedia, it was distributed by Sheeman Productions. It was released July 15th, 1992 in Germany. And it says running time 90 minutes, country United States. It was put out on VHS, so maybe it was a straight to home release movie. Not entirely certain. So, according to, we'll talk a little bit about what IMDb and what Wikipedia both say about this movie. Zipperface on IMDb has a 2.7 out of 10 star rating from 248 ratings. I think that's generous. It's very generous. I understand it's like an average, but that's still very generous. The plot synopsis from Zipperface on IMDb says, Lisa Ryder is a young policewoman recently promoted to detective when she has her first case in tracking down and identifying a serial killer in her small California town. Directed by Mansour Pourmond, written by Barbara Bishop and Ralph Lucas, with 2 other credits that we're not going to get into. According to Wikipedia, Zipperface is a 1992 erotic horror thriller film. See, that's how you know you're in for a good time. Written and directed by Mansour Pourmond and co-written by Barbara Bishop. So the first plot, I'll give you the first plot paragraph on Wikipedia, and then we'll get into my detailed breakdown like we usually do. A sadomasochistic serial killer in a bondage suit, fun right off the bat, is running amok in Palm City, murdering stage actresses who moonlight as BDSM prostitutes. Assigned to the case are detectives Lisa Ryder and Harry Shine, who are under pressure to apprehend the culprit as soon as possible in order to appease the ruthless Mayor Angela Harris. As the duo's investigation progresses, they uncover a number of different suspects, including a misogynist fellow named Willie Scalia, the mayor's aide named Devin McLean, a preacher named Reverend Dimsdale, and a professional photographer named Michael Walker. So that pretty much spells it out for you without giving anything away. There's a cop, she gets promoted to being a detective, she's put on a case with a guy who has a regular partner, but that regular partner is kind of like stuck on desk duty for right now for being such a jerk. And these women go and, they hook up with this guy in a bondage suit and have weird, freaky sex with him. Now, I want to throw this out there immediately. There is nothing wrong with having weird, freaky relations with people, as long as you are both consensual adults. Everybody agrees to what's going on, and everything is done in a safe, professional manner. It's a lot like wrestling. You have to depend on your partner to take care of you. You have to take care of each other. Make sure everybody's having a good time, nothing goes wrong, nobody gets hurt. It's a very strange. I hadn't actually thought about that until just now. That's Anyway, back to the matter at hand. So he ends up killing somebody, and then starts killing more people, and they're put on the case to track this guy down. So in the cast, we have Donna Adams as Detective Lisa Ryder, Jonathan Mandel as Michael Walker, David Clover, as Harry Shine, Trisha Melenkov as Angela Harris, the mayor, Bruce Brown as Brewster Harris, and that's far too many people. We're not going to get into them. There's not that many characters that you need to care about in this movie. So the one and only thing about this movie on Wikipedia is the reception. Zipperface was heavily criticized by TV Guide, which condemned it as a cross between female exploitation and feminist bashing that was low grade in all departments, not just gender politics. The film was similarly derided by Todd Martin of Horror News, who wrote, "Not only is it unoriginal and poorly written, it also has some of the worst acting I have seen in a very long time, and is just a mighty bad movie in every conceivable way." Now, TV Guide is correct. It's definitely got a lot of feminist bashing and female exploitation in it. This movie was not very sensitive towards the female gender. There's a lot of moments in it where it's just kind of like the people that made this movie are just like really into like bondage and stuff, and they just kind of wanted to get their own controlled environment where they could tie people up and whatnot. It is very unoriginal, as noted by Todd Martin. It's very poorly written. It does have some of the worst acting you'll ever see in anything. But this movie, I will say this, This movie surprised me at the end. There is a twist at the end when we find out who Zipperface is that I didn't see coming at all. They're on my notes, and we'll get to it in the breakdown. I make notes. I'm like, they're leading you to believe it's this person, but it's actually this guy. No. It's 6 people away from who you could ever think it was. And if you figured out who it was, you're a liar, and I don't believe you. So our last little bit of trivia we'll talk about before we get into the breakdown comes from IMDb. Zipperface was adapted and parodied as Zipperface, the Hobo Musical, by a group of Rutgers University graduates performed off-Broadway in 2009. The play is a satirical rebuke of movie musicals and includes such songs as Scalia Hates Lisa Ryder and, Well, I Killed Another S&M Hooker Tonight. Now, the fun thing about Zipperface and the Zipperface musical, you can find both of those very easily on YouTube. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I had this movie when I was younger on DVD. That is no longer the case. I couldn't tell you the last time I saw the DVD for this movie. Moving houses and stuff over time, you lose track of things, and, you just lose items sometimes. So I haven't seen the DVD for this film in several years, but you can find it on YouTube, no problem. There's tons of crappy movies that you can find there. This is one of them. Okay, so it's time for the breakdown. This film opens with an absolutely insane hostage situation. I'm talking like 70s cop shows, with their crazy car chases and people running into boxes and blowing through fruit stands and stuff like that. Like, that's what we see on the way to this hostage situation in this just this house, just this random house, featuring an abused child. Now, if I remember correctly, the kid in this scene, I think was one of the directors. I think it was the director's kid, one of his kids, and like it's a dad, and he's holding his wife and his son hostage. I don't know why. We don't get any information, no backstory. We're just dropped in, following cops on the way to this hostage situation. But at one point, he's got like his wife in a headlock, pointing the gun at her, and he's got the kid with his other arm with the gun arm. But like, he doesn't have the kid. He doesn't have his arm tucked under the kid's chin, or like, kid's in a chokehold or something. No. He's just got his whole arm like just wrapped around this kid's face, and the kid's flailing around, struggling to breathe. He's suffocating and dying. And, he pulls him into the house. Cops surround the place. And this is where we first get to see Harry. This is the first place we get to see Harry and his partner, who gets delegated to desk duty in a few minutes. We get to see them working really well together, establishing that they're partners, and like they try to flank around the house and whatever. So eventually the hostage taker is killed in like the most dramatic fashion you'll ever see in your life. This acting, not even just in this scene, this whole movie, is like Unsolved Mysteries and America's Most Wanted reenactment levels of bad. If you've ever watched the original Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack hosting, or the old episodes of America's Most Wanted before it got turned into a crazy nightmare, it's the same level of like daytime soap opera acting. People are just trying way too hard because they're in front of a national audience. So the hostage taker is killed. Lisa Ryder gets promoted, which upsets a bunch of the older guys on the force because, this was the early 90s and she's a woman and women are bad. And so we cut to City Hall. The mayor is being interviewed about re-election. There's a lot of people asking her about, what is she going to run again, whatever. And her husband is like trying to shush the re-election stuff. He's like, we're not here for that. We're here for something else. And they bring in Lisa Ryder, and this is like her big promotion ceremony by the mayor. She's being promoted to detective. She's no longer a beat cop. She's a detective. And she mentions that this is the first female detective in the department's history, which 1992, maybe, yeah. It's not entirely hard to believe. So after Lisa is awarded, and by the way, do mayors handle promotions in the police department? I don't know that. Someone let me know. So after Lisa is awarded her promotion, we get the longest clap sequence of all time. I have never been watching a movie and thought, why are they still clapping? This goes on for way too long. They could have cut it in about half, maybe even 3/4. They could have trimmed out of this clapping, because they just clap and go on, and it's just like everybody in this room is broken and they need to be rebooted. After that, we get our introduction of Zipperface. We see like a light bulb in like a green room, and then we see him coming in slowly, raising a knife up, and it slaps across the screen, Zipperface, in this really terrible font, and it's just awful. So after that, there is a nighttime skyline montage of the credits set to really, really bad 90s TV movie music. Everything about this movie points to this having been a made-for-TV film, but there's so much there's so much violence, and there's nudity in the language that's in this movie. It had no way of being a made-for-TV film, but all of the production about this movie points at made-for-TV. It's insane. And the title sequence goes on for far too long, as you would expect. Eventually, we see a red convertible, open top, pulling up next to what looks like an abandoned building. You know, it's like an old industrial warehouse, and you know, it's nighttime, and it's like there's not a whole lot of lights and stuff. Everything's all blue and gray and whatnot. And then we cut to Zipperface putting on his gear. If you're not familiar with the world of freaky sex, Zipperface is wearing a full leather body outfit. Now, when I say full body, I straight up mean his entire self is cloaked in leather. You know, pants, boots, top, gloves, mask, and he's got a zipper that goes across his mouth, which is where he gets his name, Zipperface, but no one will ever refer to him as Zipperface in this movie until the very end of the film, when the movie's over. They're like, we finally got you, Zipperface, and it's like, nobody's called him that, ever. Like, we don't even see a newspaper or a TV news report that's like, you know, serial killer Zipperface is still on the loose. No, never is he referred to as Zipperface. That annoyed the crap out of me. So 3 women exit this convertible, and their names are Sherry, Janet, and Natalie. It took so long for their names to be mentioned that for the longest time in my notes, I simply referred to them as the redhead, the brunette, and the blonde. You know, not very nice, but you know, I only had so much to work with at the time, and I couldn't tell you which one is which because I don't have them labeled like that anymore, so you'll just have to watch the movie and find out on your own. The women discuss that this is where this guy likes to play, meaning sex, that he has a whole routine that he does, and tonight that Janet will be his virgin queen, and that's gross. So apparently he's doing some kind of role play with them, specific role play with them tonight, and this is Janet's first time visiting Zipperface, and she's going to be his virgin queen. Ugh. That makes my mouth feel gross when I say it. So Natalie tells Janet that she and Sherry will come get her when they're ready. And so we get scenes here cut with Janet looking around. She's in this like dressing room area that's full of like outfits and restraint systems and just general bondage accoutrement. And she's just getting freaked out the whole time, and she can hear the preliminary sexing going on. Like, she can hear them through the door in the other room starting off the role play and all that stuff, and she can hear like, you know, like, I guess it's supposed to be like whip cracks or something. It's just this weird like slapping sound that you can hear, and she's just starting to lose her mind. And then we hear one of the women. This was the farthest I made it into the movie the very first time I watched it, and then I never watched it again until I watched it for the show. One of the women says, "Hey, we had a deal. No more of that dog food, man. It's all fat." Janet looks into the corner of the room. There are 3 cans of dog food in the corner. What kind of gross, nasty sex is this guy having with these women? Now, like I said, nothing wrong with being into aggressive, restraining sexual pleasure. There is something wrong with making your partners consume dog food, especially canned dog food That's nasty. Super, super gross. So Janet, understandably, decides that this is time for her to leave. And so she like busts into the next room and she's like, I can't handle this. I gotta leave. And Zipperface is like, no one can ever leave. So she kicks him in the junk and runs away. And he flings a whip at her. It grapples her around the neck, like it does anytime if you've ever used a whip. Like, movies are not indicative of how whips work, like, ever. It wraps around her neck, and he jerks backwards. What do you think's gonna happen here, kids? She's dead. And then we get the least concerned acting of all time from Natalie and Sherry as they mourn the loss of their friend, who, if they were really her friends, wouldn't have got her involved with this dude in the first place. She was so uncomfortable going into this. I don't understand why they pushed her to do this, And then just when she dies, they're like, he killed Janet. You killed Janet. Like, oh no, he killed Janet. Oh man. And then Zipperface suddenly has a machete, and a chase scene ensues. No details here. You know how chase scenes go. I actually have that in my notes. I didn't feel the need to take any specifics. Because, you've seen one murderer chasing half-naked women in a horror movie. What more can I tell you about that scene, So Natalie gets into the car, and Sherry doesn't go for the car. I have no idea. It's like she runs and hides somewhere in the building. I don't understand why they both didn't make a run for the car to escape. It makes no sense. I will never understand in movies why someone like runs and hides somewhere when like the door is open or they're not that far from their vehicle. Just get out of where you are, get into your car, and then go to a safe place. It's just stupid. Anyway, then the car won't start because, of course, it doesn't. Sherry finally makes it to the car, and they actually escape. Like, she gets to the car starts, and then they run away. And then cut to someone sleeping on a couch. This woman is named Lizzie. She's sleeping on her couch, and then someone's pounding really hard on her door, and it turns out it's Natalie. It's Natalie without Sherry, who we learn later on is friends with Lizzie. All of these women were friends with each other. So I don't understand where Sherry went if they were both in the same car, and it seems like Natalie went straight to Lizzie's house. What happened to Sherry in between leaving and arriving at Lizzie's house? And then we don't see Sherry again until close to the end of the movie. Like, I have no idea what happened to her in the interim. So Lizzie's grilling Natalie about what she's here for this time. She's like, what are you here for this time? Do you need money again? Apparently they have some pretty crappy history between one another. They're not very good friends. And then Natalie says, this softcore guy got real weird and broke Janet's neck. Excuse me, what exactly about this guy gave you the idea that he was softcore? He wears a full-body gimp suit covered in spikes. That is not softcore. He has you meet him in his lair, which is in an abandoned factory, in the middle of the night with his arsenal of sex weapons. Nothing about that is softcore. Lizzie tells Natalie she can't help her. She can't go through this again. I don't know what that means. Apparently, Natalie has a bad time of having her friends be murdered, I guess. So at this point I was thinking, and I'm sure you're thinking too, why doesn't Natalie just call the police like a sensible person would after she saw her friend get murdered? Natalie has an answer for you. She says that she can't call the cops because she's in trouble with them, as if that would keep them from helping her track down the man who killed her friend. Like, okay, look, yeah, you've been in trouble a little bit before, but you're being pursued by someone who wants you dead. We're going to overlook your previous transgressions to help you to ensure that you won't die. That's how the police work. So we cut to the cops investigating a dead woman outside a building. Cut to Lisa Ryder doing some paperwork as she deals with a coworker. That coworker is Harry's partner, and I can't remember his name. His name's in my notes somewhere. We'll get to it later. That guy is suspect numero uno for the viewer to be Zipperface. We'll get to that further on as well. So the coworker throws a case file for the Hooker murders as they are so eloquently called, onto Lisa Ryder's desk, and she's looking through them, and she looks through she looks at them for like 3 seconds total. She has no time to gather anything from these photographs at all. So Lisa is then assigned to work this case with Detective Harry. The chief says that this case is probably an S&M hooker who got in with the wrong John, and Lisa says that can't be right because S&M people are usually pretty battered. Now, I have a problem with this for a few reasons. S&M people who are into this lifestyle, aren't always about leaving marks and causing damage to their partner. In so many cases, that is just untrue. Sure, some people enjoy that sort of thing. Most people don't. As I said earlier, it's all about taking care of your partner, ensuring fun and enjoyment for both parties. Also, she seems to imply that she picked up... Wait a second. Yeah. She picked up on her lack of wear and tear based on one or two of the photos she just looked at for about 3 seconds, as I said a minute ago. She did not have time. It's impossible. She gets the photographs, she looks at 2 of them, and is then called into the chief's office. She had no time to gather anything but a glance from those photos. That's stupid. That's ridiculous. Number one, to imply that people who are into the bondage lifestyle are always beat up and battered and bruised is completely ignorant and just stupid. And then number two, to come to that conclusion from having a brief glance at photographs, get the hell out of here. You get out of here. That's impossible and it's stupid. Harry agrees that it couldn't have been a first-timer. The 2 then head to a hotel that the dead woman had a key for. And here we get some animosity between the detectives because Harry usually works with the guy that was being a jerk. Willie. His name is Willie. Willie, Harry's regular partner. He doesn't want to work with someone new, and he certainly doesn't want to work with a woman because, as we talked about earlier, remember, women are bad. So as they head off to the hotel, the chief calls Willie into his office. He's scolding him for being late and, staying late and whatever. And he's had some weird stuff going on. And Willie says that he's got some personal stuff going on. He's just, his delivery, he's like, yeah, well, chief, I got some personal stuff going on. He's just like really dark and weird about it. So very clearly it is implied that he is the killer. It's like that's the first thing you're supposed to think about this guy is he's the killer. That's him right there. So he puts Willie on desk duty. And then the chief is drinking milk in the middle of the afternoon. It's weird. It's just weird to see. You don't regularly see people in movies drinking milk. It's weird. So back to Frick and Frack as they arrive at the hotel where the hookers do not work out of, as the manager will tell you. The dead woman that they were looking at in the photographs was Janet, by the way. I failed to mention that. They were looking at Janet's photographs from her murder scene. Like Zipperface had staged her somewhere for the cops to find. She had a key for this hotel. The detectives tell the manager they found a key from a hooker. And she's like, hookers do not work out of this hotel. So the detectives start looking around for clues in Janet's room. They find something. We don't get to see what that is. And then they drive somewhere else. Come to find out, they drive to a photographer studio. I assume it was a business card that they found for this guy. So they go into this guy's studio, and he's got, examples of his work everywhere, which mostly seem to be like fetish sets. Like this guy seems to do a lot of fetish-driven photography, which, hey, whatever. So it's here, I think, that we're meant to think that this guy might be the killer, because why else would he have all these photographs of mostly or partly naked women who were tied up all over his place of business? He's kind of creepy the way that he speaks. His line delivery is just gross. He's always checking out Lisa. They have him try to identify Janet, and he's like, no, I don't know who she is. Maybe I took some photographs of her, but it was just a job. And then for some reason, Harry mentions that he has to piss really, really bad. Like, he is adamant, like, prostate problems level of, I've really got to pee. He has to pee a lot in the next few minutes. I don't I don't know if that was like a character thing or if like that actor was having trouble. I don't know. So as he goes to the bathroom to pee, the photographer gets all weird and creepy and personal with Lisa, and then they leave. Ominous music starts playing as the photographer starts going through some files. Oh no, he lied to the police. He did know Janet. They were romantically involved. So as the detectives leave, he starts burning the photographs that he had of Janet, destroying evidence and such. Back at the police station, some police work is being done. Lisa starts taking offense to the way that her coworkers refer to women. Like there's a lot of scenes. There's some scenes in this movie where she gets mad that the other detectives like Harry and Willie are talking about hookers and brides and whatever. So like the movie tries to make a good point. It's like maybe you shouldn't just use derogatory terms to refer to women. And then like the whole rest of the movie happens. You watch the rest of the movie and you're like, what kind of message are they trying to send with this movie? So the photographer calls Lisa and he tries to set up a photo session with her. And she doesn't want to go. She's like, no, it's really unprofessional. I'm in the middle of a case, blah, blah, blah. Cop stuff. And he's like, come on. Just come on. Come to the session. We'll have dinner, blah, 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 blah. She's like, no. And he's like, all right, I'll see you at 8. And she's like, no, you won't. And then hung up the phone. So, just don't go. I don't understand the problem here. Just don't do it. Back at Lizzie's house, she's getting dressed, and there's some really, really badly forced sexual tension between her and Natalie. Lizzie's trying to drag Natalie to another S&M client so that they can make some rent money. Apparently they worked out their differences. Natalie's going to be living with Lizzie now, and they have to be hookers in order to make rent money. Okay. So Natalie doesn't want to go because she was almost killed by someone, by a recent S&M client, and Lizzie's being a real dick about it. She's like, we got to make sure we have somewhere to live, Natalie. And it's like, dude, your friend was almost killed yesterday. Maybe you could be a little bit nicer to her about this, especially considering you're going to see an S&M client, the same kind of client that almost killed your friend. Maybe you could have some compassion and maybe not make your friend go hooking for a day. So we cut to Lizzie and Natalie in a dark apartment getting ready for some sex. Lizzie starts tying Natalie up. This movie just got a whole lot better. Some of the worst bondage work I've seen outside of pornography, 50 Shades of Grey actually did a better job than they did in Zipperface, and that's something that was universally ridiculed about the 50 Shades movie, was that they had really crappy bondage work done in the film. Those people haven't seen Zipperface. And then we get a lady kiss, and I'm like, wow, they really tried to force everything they could into this movie to try to drive home that erotic thriller, huh? So Lizzie, she just wraps a rope around Natalie's chest a little bit and then puts a blindfold on her and sits her in this chair. And then she calls for their master, and oh no, it's Zipperface. Because who else would it have been? And when he speaks with his scary Zipperface voice, Natalie poops her pants, as you would expect, and then is thrown against a wall where she spins around like an idiot. She hits the wall and then rotates. She spins along the wall, trying to keep some semblance of where she is, but instead of holding her hands out, because her hands, she can still move her hands around. She just can't move her biceps and upper arms and stuff because they're wrapped to her chest. So instead of just holding your hands out to keep location of where you are, or maybe make an effort to pull the blindfold off, no, she just pirouettes along the wall like a dumbass and then runs out of the room. And then Zipperface kills Lizzie. He cuts her throat, and it's some of the worst makeup effects ever in anything you'll ever see. She only has a line of blood along her neck. So it looked like it just, really light cut. So she should be fine. And Zipperface now turns to Natalie, who opened the door and is trying to run away. She gets outside. She found a way to the roof of this apartment building. being tied up and blindfolded, she found a way to make it to the roof. I don't understand how that happened. But obviously Zipperface finds her, and he throws her off the roof. She literally splatters on the ground. She hits, and there's like a sound effect. It's great. Cut to Lisa at the photographer's studio, and she's like, I knew this was a bad idea. So why did you even go? Just don't go. Stay home. Stop developing unrealistic feelings for this very creepy dude who is a suspect in a case that you are working on. You can't do that. That's against the rules of being a cop. Anyway, Captain Creepy brings Lisa some wine to help her relax for her photo shoot, and turns on some really bad keyboard music, like really terrible synthesizer music, before helping alter her outfit. By which I mean exposing her chest. Not completely, mind you. She's wearing like this button-down top, and he like pops open several of the buttons to expose as much of her cleavage and open chest as he can without exposing her actual nipples, because I guess that particular actress who's playing Lisa was like, no, I'm not showing my bare boobs in this stupid movie. Absolutely not. It's like, oh, well, maybe we can show as much of it as possible. Okay, fine. But if you go past that, I'm burning this set to the ground. Now, later on in the movie, well, we'll get to that. So Lisa tells him, she's like, I'm going to pay for these photos. And he's like, no, it's not right. You're involved in the case I'm on. The photographer said that. He said, it's not right. You're involved in the case I'm on. What? Oh, no. No. I'm sorry. I completely misread my notes. She says, it's not right. You're involved in the case I'm on. And he says, and he's so mad at this when he says this. He's like, the case? I thought that was forgotten. Some poor girl who might have asked me about pictures turns up dead and I'm involved? Yes, you dumb bastard. It was only, seriously, this whole sequence of events has happened over the course of like a day and a half. It was just a few hours ago that the detectives came in to question you about your connection to this woman. If you're gonna lie to the police, you need to have some better stuff than that. So anyway, he kind of chills out, and I've seen Lornos, light pornos, that play out exactly like this. And there's like a photography montage where he's like taking a bunch of pictures of her and stuff, and this really loud blaring saxophone synthesizer music is playing, and I keep waiting for the muted audio sex featuring positions that wouldn't ever work as far as actual sex is concerned. But I just get really, really bad music over a photo montage. And then they start making out. And I thought, okay, maybe they are going to have sex. Nope. Pager goes off. Lisa's pager goes off. Dude got blocked by a pager. 90 sure did suck, didn't they, son? So Lisa calls over to the station, and she has to head back. And she tells the guy, she's like, 2 more murders happened. I don't think you're necessarily supposed to tell suspects involved in cases when more murders happen. I don't know if you're like allowed or not allowed to do that, but it's certainly unethical at the very least. So then we get this weird scene where she'd been wearing this like scarf choker neck wrap thing when she came in, and he puts it back around her neck. The whole scene is really driving home the whole domination and submission thing of the killer, further leading the audience members to believe that this guy is Zipperface, which at this point I was still under the impression that it was Willie the detective. And like he grabs Lisa around the neck and like lightly chokes her a little bit. So like I don't really know why he did that. I don't. I mean, unless that dude's into choking his sex partners, which, I mean, whatever. Just, make sure you know what you're doing. But it felt really out of place with everything else that was going on. And then they kiss, and she leaves. She arrives on scene in the apartment where Zipperface kills Lizzie and then immediately vomits. Even though, keep in mind, she killed someone at the beginning of this movie. She shot several bullets through his body, ending his life. She killed a guy and then can't handle seeing a dead hooker. Now I know what you're thinking. Okay, PTSD maybe, something like that. Okay, I could buy that. Except for the fact that we get nothing. We are given no reason to believe that she has suffered any sort of psychological damage from killing that hostage taker in the beginning of the movie. She just seems to be the same doopa-doopa-doo, I'm a cop, I'm a detective, fighting for women kind of thing going on the whole movie. But she throws up after seeing a dead hooker, even though she killed a guy like 2 days before. I don't know what that was about. So she runs out to vomit, and then she comes back and she's like, I'm going to be all right. And then we cut to the mayor preparing a press statement about the murders. So that whole last scene had no reason to exist. There was no reason. It sets up something later in the movie, her fear of seeing dead people, but you don't need that. There was no reason for that scene or that character trait, I guess, to exist. There's no reason for any of that to have happened at all. So we cut to the mayor preparing a press statement about the murders. So like it could have just been like, pager goes off, 2 murders have happened, cut to the mayor. Like Lisa leaves, cut to the mayor. And then just not have her be afraid of dead people later in the movie after murdering someone. Based on the dialogue in this scene with the mayor, I was under the impression that she was banging her assistant. It's the mayor, her husband, and her assistant. And just the way that the assistant and the mayor are talking to each other, I felt like they were having some sort of affair. That doesn't ever come up, and it's not a thing later in the movie. So I guess I just read the situation wrong. Maybe it was something they had planned to do and just cut out of this crap pile. But you watch it, you tell me what you think. Back at Lizzie's apartment, Lisa and Harry are looking for clues because they're detectives, you see. So after looking around the room, Lisa finds a card for Sherry. Some kind of like invitation to, it mentions an open night. So Sherry is an actress, a local actress in a local theater group. And that was like, I guess, like tickets and an invitation to come see her show that she sent to Lizzie. Now, it was here that I realized that I didn't understand what happened to Sherry. She was in the car with Natalie. They both clearly knew Lizzie. So where did she go? And, I already talked about that earlier, so we're just going to let that lie. And here in this scene, they talk about, they find some like pamphlets for this hooker reform church. It's like the easiest way to describe what this place is. It's a church, and they work with women who used to be prostitutes and are like trying to bring them out of that lifestyle to lead a more normal, substantial life than having to live the dangerous, murder-filled world of hookers. And so then we get the longest walking scene ever of them walking like into the church. We cut to them outside the church, and like they walk from like 2 blocks away. Like the camera zoomed in really far, and they walk from like 2 blocks away to the steps, up all the steps, and through the door. And it's like half the runtime of the movie is watching this happen. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but the scene went on far too long. Inside the church, Harry has the line. He says, "Looks like a goddamn hooker convention." Inside the church. Look, dude, I'm a godless heathen, okay? I will straight up tell you that. I don't care. But maybe have a little respect for the building that you're in, because this place, at least, is trying to help hookers. Maybe don't swear in the church. Maybe just don't do that. That's not cool. Just don't swear in church, kids. All of the women in the scene, there's a bunch of like hookers in the scene, and they leave, and Lisa tells Harry it's because he wears the cologne of a cop. He's like, "Hey, where are they going?" "It's because you smell like a cop." Yeah, has nothing to do with the giant badge hanging off the front of his coat. Because they're like, he's like, how do they know who we were? Because you smell like a cop. No, dude. It's your giant police badge. Hookers don't want to deal with police. All right? They're hookers. Get arrested for being hookers all the time. So this is where we meet the Reverend. And he says, what has brought you here? And I was like, dude, you run a church that helps hookers. Do you not know about the hooker murders? Because, like, I could understand that maybe the town doesn't know about them yet because we just saw the mayor preparing a press briefing to talk about the murders and what the police department is doing to help stop them. But you run a church that's dedicated to helping women stop being hookers. A lot of those women are still hookers. So those women probably talk to other women that are still hookers, and word gets around really fast in tight groups of people like that. So surely this dude has heard about the hooker murders so far. Surely. Don't call me Shirley. And it was here that we find out that this dude is the Reverend, and he is like the scariest Reverend of all time. You remember the guy from Scary Movie 2 with the weird hand that was all creepy and gross? Okay, that dude, but worse. Okay? Like way creepier to look at and just nasty. And then he has the worst cry acting of all time when they tell him about the hooker murders. And he proves to be really unhelpful for the investigation. So the detectives leave, and throughout some of the cuts in this scene, there's a woman, I can't remember if she was wearing if it was like a red and white striped shirt, or if it was like really long like socks or something. She's wearing something that's red and white striped, and we see her kind of like peeking around, looking into the office. Like, we're supposed to notice that she's kind of snooping around. So then she walks into the Reverend's office after they're gone, and we see him on the phone with somebody, and scary music plays. And then we get the first and maybe only Bill shot of this movie. Every movie has one. We get there's several seconds of a sign, just like a wooden homemade sign that just is like pointing at a parking lot that says police. And that doesn't make any sense to me, because after that, it cuts to Willie, the detective, who we know is a cop. We know here he works. And like, he's in his detective suit, leaving the office to go home. There was no need for this bogus establishing shot of a parking lot sign that just says police. It's a Bill shot. Get rid of it. And Harry is there. He comes out and he's talking to Willie about how they're going to finish the case and get the team back together. And I put here in this section of my notes, I put, they were a team before Lisa got assigned to work with Harry. That was important to know for this movie. I didn't mention it because it doesn't really matter. Nothing about this movie matters. Just relaying some previous info to you guys, plus that note's funny. And Willie is holding like a big like grocery bag, like a big paper grocery bag. And suddenly, cans of Alpo dog food. It doesn't say Alpo. It's the same brand of dog food from earlier in the movie when Janet saw the dog food. But it's clearly supposed to be like Alpo brand dog food. Fall out of this bag. Now, I told you this dude was the killer. This is to help further that, okay? I will tell you now, Willie is not Zipperface, and the photographer is not Zipperface. They're both what are known as red herrings. Something that you are intended to believe and then are swerved later on in the movie. A lot of people like to think that all of the super soldiers in Captain America Civil War were red herrings, and they weren't. That was stupid. That was a terrible, terrible, terrible use, and it wasn't even executed. Chekhov's gun, it was terrible. A terrible, terrible thing that they did in that movie. I hate that movie so much. Oh my God, I hate that movie so much. Getting off track. This is an actual red herring. You know, you're looking over here. Meanwhile, this is going on. I'm not going to tell you who Zipperface is yet. We'll get to that. So Willie lies. He's clearly lying about dating a girl who has a dog to keep Harry off his tracks. And Harry's like, treat her nice. See, it's funny because we're supposed to think he's killing hookers. So then we cut to the mayor, her husband, and her assistant. And her approval numbers are super low because of the murders. The mayor needs a way to keep her numbers good in the wake of these murders. So they're brainstorming, trying to come up with what's going on. And she throws her feet up on her desk to relax further. And her assistant had put his briefcase on her desk, and she kicks it off. And a lot of what looks like Zipperface's bodysuit falls out. Like black leather stuff falls out, and there's chains and shiny metal pieces all over it. And you're like, her assistant is Zipperface? What's going on? But we don't actually see exactly what it is that fell out of his briefcase. We just see that it's leather, there are chains, and there are metal pieces. And then he scoops that up real fast and closes it back in his briefcase. Now, that's another red herring. We're supposed to think, okay, maybe her assistant is Zipperface. But I have a problem with this. We'll find out exactly what her assistant is doing here in just a couple minutes. But I have a problem with this. If that guy was Zipperface, if he was the dude that had been killing people, why in the hell would he bring that gear to his work in his briefcase? Why? He's got to have an office or a desk. Put it somewhere that's not going to be on your person at all times, so that the next time you pop that sucker open, grab some files or something, somebody standing near you is like, hey, why do you have a bunch of weird sex gear in your briefcase? Hey, are you that guy that's killing hookers? Boom, case closed. Literally and metaphorically. Back at Lisa's house, Captain Creepy, which is what I referred to the photographer as because I didn't care about his name, shows up, and he is super creepy. Super creepy. Lisa lets him in anyway because she's a strong, independent woman and blah, but sometimes, you need a man's touch. And see, I don't understand what the point, I don't understand what this movie's trying to say. So, he has some wine, and this movie is full of cringy creeper stuff, and it's just gross. So he starts giving Lisa a shoulder rub, and she's getting all hot and bothered about it. They're going to have sex. And they did. They sexed. They sexed each other. And I was going to mention it earlier when I was talking about her shirt being unbuttoned during the photo shoot. If you watch this movie on YouTube, I don't know how much is cut, but someone has edited the cut that's on YouTube and cut the sex scene between the photographer and Lisa out. I don't know if you get to see anything during that segment or not because it was cut. I'm going to go ahead and say you don't. Maybe somebody's butt is shown. So that may or may not affect the argument that I set up for Lisa earlier in the photography studio. But we'll never know until I find this movie on DVD and torture myself by watching a scene of it again. So then we cut to a theater getting ready for Lilacs in Bloom. Sherry's back, finally. We get to see her. She's out on stage rehearsing for her part. And someone kicks a paint can down some stairs. Scary music starts playing. And it was totally Zipperface. He kicked a can of paint down some stairs. And Sherry is rehearsing with a guy named Alvin. They've wrapped up their rehearsal, and he goes to investigate the paint can. And he's gonna die. I tell you right now, he gonna die. I say you, he dead. And I put, oh no, Zipperface gonna get him. And the way he kills him doesn't make any sense. He attacks him on the staircase, and it's like a Power Rangers fight, where when the Rangers finish off the henchmen and not the big bad, when they just their foot soldiers or whatever, smack him across the chest and they flip over and they're dead. That's what happens in this scene. Zipperface smacks this dude in the chest with a machete, and he hits the wall and falls over dead. And now Zipperface is making his way to the stage. Sherry and Zipperface fight on stage, and I'm fairly certain he chokes her to death. He chokes her for a little bit, and I'm pretty sure she dies from it. And then a different woman that we haven't seen yet just comes walking onto the stage and sees Sherry all dead. Zipperface gives chase, and instead of just running out the front door, this idiot runs out the back. or the side or something. She, like the front door, it was right there. There's the door, the vestibule, and then the seating area, and then the stage. All she had to have done was run up the main aisleway and out the front door into the rest of town where she could have escaped to safety. But no. She ran out a side door or a back door or something. And then she gets ran over by a car driven by Zipperface. I don't even begin to understand how that happened. Cut to CSI guys are drawing chalk outlines around Sherry on stage, which I don't think they did that in 1992. I don't think, like, once tape was invented, I think they just gave up on chalk. They don't do chalk outlines anymore. That's not a thing that they do now. Like, I'm serious. Even back then, I'm pretty sure they didn't do that in 1992. So, Harry offers to take Lisa out into the hall so as not to be freaked out by the dead Sherry. And this is where she says, "I'm a cop. I can handle it." And then mentions that someone earlier said, "Yeah, you'd get used to looking at dead bodies." Willie, the other detective, said that to her when he dropped the case file on her desk full of dead hooker photographs. He's like, "Yeah, eventually you get used to looking at dead people." Well, you're a cop, and you killed someone at the beginning of the movie, and you seem pretty proud of yourself. So that still drives me up a wall. That she couldn't handle seeing a dead person. She had no problem killing a guy, but couldn't handle seeing a dead person. And you can argue me on it all you want with, like, the PTSD and suffering and stuff, but again, there's nothing in this movie that can lead you to that conclusion at all. So it was just a stupid character flaw that they threw in for no reason. It adds nothing to this movie or her character or her scenes that she's in. It's just stupid. This movie is almost over. I have that in my notes. This movie is almost over. But there are still 4 pages of notes to get through, you guys. So, back at the station, apparently, Alvin isn't dead. He's sitting in one of those interrogation rooms, and he's got, gauze and tape and stuff around his chest. When identifying his attacker, he mentions that Zipperface was about as tall as the mayor's assistant, furthering the viewer to believe that he is the mayor's assistant. So he's done and he leaves. And then we cut to the mayor grilling the police chief because he didn't arrest Alvin for being Zipperface. Like, she doesn't care who it is. She needs someone arrested and in jail for being Zipperface as soon as possible so that she can get reelected as mayor. And, that's not okay. That's wrong. That's very, very wrong. And, I feel like even in 1992, people would be like, "No, I don't think that doesn't seem right." She wanted the chief to arrest a victim of the assault on murder charges. And then we cut to Lisa and Harry in their car getting a call on the radio about some gangsters attacking somebody. And we see a bunch of gangsters corner a young woman, and they conveniently wait for the cops to come and stop them because we see them corner this woman and attack her at the same time that the police are busting this wicked U-turn and speeding to their location and then stopping and then getting out of their car and threatening to shoot the gang. The gang's gone. The gang leaves. They disperse. The woman tries to then run away, and turns out that it's the mayor's assistant. He's a cross-dresser. So those were his cross-dressing clothes that we saw fall out of his briefcase earlier in the movie. That was another scene I felt like didn't really need to exist. I don't understand. We didn't get that much time with the mayor's assistant to care about him as a character, so what was the point in having him be a cross-dresser other than, for you, the viewer, to be like, oh, okay, well, cross one off the list of possible suspects of who Zipperface is. But you've already got 2 really convincing people in Willie and the photographer, who I think's name is Michael. We'll get to that here in just a few minutes because I started putting that down. Michael, yeah. You have two really good suspects as far as Willie and Michael are concerned for the viewer to decide whether or not which one of them is Zipperface. There was absolutely no need to humiliate the mayor's assistant character by having police detectives find out that he's a crossdresser. There was no need for that. It was mean-spirited and it really had no place. It was just stupid. There was no need for that. I mean, hey, you're a crossdresser, man, that's cool. Whatever, you do you, man, but like, don't work for the mayor, I guess, if you're going to be a crossdresser. Is the moral of that story? I don't know. It's frustrating. So much of this movie is just frustrating nonsense that doesn't need to be or exist in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And that whole, it's not even a subplot. It's like a subplot, like a fifth tier plot element that didn't need to exist in this movie. It was just like, how can we fill 87 more seconds of screen time? Well, let's make the mayor's assistant a crossdresser. Why? So cut back to the police station, and it's lunchtime. Harry sits with Lisa, and they discuss relationship problems because at times, Lisa is a strong character model, and then other times she's a helpless, stupid woman. So Harry and Willie meet up in an office later to try to figure out the case. Harry realizes, and this is like, if you've ever watched the Bill Dozier, Adam West Batman series, which, most people have seen some of it at some point in their life, or you've seen the theatrical movie that they put out. Anytime there was an episode that featured the Riddler, they always had like the most convoluted clues and riddles in the world for his tricks, and Robin would figure them out with just like the dumbest possible, there's no way he could have connected any of those things to figure out the Riddler's tricks in that episode. It's just stupid. Well, that's how Harry solves this problem right here. He realizes that the hookers and the actresses, because not all of the hookers are actresses and not all of the actresses are hookers, they're all connected by needing headshots and photos for their respective businesses. And I don't know about you, but I've never seen any headshot ads for hookers in my local papers. I don't go through the personal section and be like, oh, Trisha the hooker's got a new headshot in. Look at that. She got him to fix that droopy eye thing she's got going on. Good for her. No, that doesn't happen. Hookers do not need photographs, okay? If they're just hookers, no. No, they don't. If you are a professional escort and sex lady in somewhere like Vegas, okay, sure. But if you're in Palm City, California, a place that doesn't exist, then you don't need headshots for your hooking. You don't. You just don't. So, once we figured out that, between the two of them, between Harry and Willie and the police chief, they figure that Michael, the photographer, is the murderer, because he'd have to take pictures of the actresses and the hookers for their respective businesses, I guess. Cut to Lisa and Michael are in bed again. They've been sleeping together. This whole movie takes place over the course, 3 or 4 or 5 days maybe. So they're moving pretty fast. And Lisa goes into work, and she's called into the chief's office. And she is rightfully suspended for getting romantically involved with a suspect. Lisa and Harry argue about the suspension, and Michael, she's like, Michael can't be the killer, brr, 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 brr. And it's like, she only thinks that because she's having sex with him. She has no real evidence to prove that he's not the murderer. She also wouldn't necessarily have anything to prove that he was, but she only doesn't think he's the murderer because they're having sex. Yet another, like I said, sometimes she's a strong character and sometimes she's a dumbass. Just a stupid woman, because women are bad. At Michael's house, Lisa bursts in and confronts him about Janet. They argue about the case and whatnot. This is after she's been suspended, so she's pretty upset. Harry, he tells her all about Michael and Janet and blah, blah, blah. There are 20 minutes left in this movie. Somehow there are 20 minutes left in this movie. This movie was 90 minutes long, and I got it done in 9 pages. So I guess I'm getting about 10 minutes a page. It's not bad. Just something that I just noticed. So Lisa agrees to help Michael prove his innocence. Cut to the mayor putting out a statement surrounded by press about Michael being the killer, and the police are out looking for him. Because remember, she needs somebody in that jail by tomorrow, or she was going to fire the chief, which I don't know if she has that authority or not. I don't know how that works. I don't know who's above the police chief. The district attorney, maybe? I don't know. Lisa says that they need to go to the hooker church. Cut to the chief and Willie trying to hail Harry on his radio, and he's been following Lisa ever since she got mad and left the station. At the hooker church, we discover the Reverend has been murdered. Oh yeah. So, having seen this movie, the fact that he's dead makes no sense. He didn't know anything as far as anything was concerned, so I don't understand why he's dead. Zipperface would have had no reason to kill him. That doesn't make any sense. A woman walks into frame and is taken down by Lisa. Her name is Lana. She was the red and white striped lady that we saw earlier talking to Reverend Scary. Lana's freaking out, said she was supposed to meet a guy, and the Reverend told her not to. And now Lisa and Michael figure that the mayor's assistant is the killer. Somehow, I don't remember how that happened. So now they're going to find this client that Lana was supposed to go meet. And Lisa decides to dress like a hooker, going incognito, I guess, to go find this guy. And so she and Michael leave, and Harry follows. They make their way to the creepy building from the beginning of the movie. Lisa enters the building. The police chief and the mayor have a discussion about not being able to find Michael, and the mayor threatens the chief that if they don't find Michael, that she's going to fire him. Cut back to Lisa in the gross sex building. She eventually finds the dressing room, the same one with the dog food, but oh no, Zipperface is there. He chokes her out and takes her gun that she had previously mentioned having to turn in. Now, speaking as somebody who, my dad has worked in law enforcement in varying degrees for, a good over half my life, I can tell you this right now. If you are somebody who works in law enforcement, particularly someone who has to go out in the field like police officers do, it's more than likely that you're going to have a gun at home. That's just the way it is. But at no point in time in this movie had we ever known Lisa to have a gun outside of her service pistol. So I don't know where this gun came from. Michael didn't have a gun. I don't know where this gun came from or why she had it. But, you could work under the assumption that she's a cop. Of course she would have another gun, I guess. And then Harry shows up. But oh no, Zipperface has Lisa tied up, and she's a terrible... She's not a good actress to begin with, but then she tries doing this, hooker gimmick, and it just doesn't work. And oh no, Zipperface knows who she is. She's gonna die. Lisa's gonna die. And she tries to reason with Zipperface. Cut back to the police chief putting out a search for Michael. He calls out on the radio, "We gotta find Michael," blah 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 blah. And then cut back to Zipperface whipping Lisa, and he starts choking her out. It's hot. And then she kicks him in the nads, and he's got her she's standing up, but her arms are stretched out and they're tied to the ceiling, and her legs are free. So but in the background you can see he's got this rotating spinner rack. I don't understand why he didn't strap her to that or tie her legs together somehow, because he's been kicked in the junk 4 times in this movie so far. You'd think after it happened with the first hooker, he would have done something different to keep from being kicked in the nads. He reveals himself to be Michael, which I was like, that's a lie. That's stupid. And the whole time this is going on, Harry made his way to he made it to the building, and he's sneaking around Bruce Willis in Die Hard, trying to figure out where Zipperface is. And then all of a sudden Michael jumps out of nowhere and attacks Zipperface to save Lisa. And then as Harry's sneaking around, he knocks something over, and it distracts Zipperface long enough for Michael to untie Lisa, and the fun's over. Zipperface stabs Michael and gets into a fight with Lisa. Michael removes the machete in the fakest way ever and stabs Zipperface in the leg. I don't remember exactly how that happens. I don't remember, but it was. I do remember that it was super fake looking. Like, you could very clearly tell that was a prop somehow. Harry shows up and calls Zipperface by his name, by Zipperface. He's like, "You're done for, Zipperface," and it's like, nobody's called him that ever in this movie. Why did you do that? So, whatever. And then Lisa and Michael have a sweet moment, and then every cop that's ever existed in the world shows up to this building. Despite the fact that nobody knew where anybody was, I'm just realizing they had no way of knowing where they were at, so I don't know how the cops found where to go. That's strange. And Willie shows up, and he has a dog. So I guess he's not Zipperface. And he wasn't lying about the dog food and the girlfriend with the dog. So you're probably thinking to yourself, if it's not Michael, if it's not the mayor's assistant, oh wait, we don't know that it's not the mayor's assistant yet. But if it's not Michael, and it's not Willie, and it's probably not the mayor's assistant, who could it be? This pissed me off more than anything that has ever upset me. I was swindled. I was swerved. They hit me with a curveball. This pile of garbage movie managed to swindle me in this moment. It was the mayor's husband. This dude that has barely any screen time in this movie, who we only see focusing on his stupid wife's re-election campaign a couple of times, dresses up and has sex with hookers, accidentally killed one, and then had to kill the rest of them to hide his secret. I was furious. Absolutely furious. I hadn't been that upset since I left the theater after seeing Jigsaw. I was fuming about Jigsaw for days after I saw it. Nothing compares to the anger that I felt having been bamboozled by Zipperface. I'm still mad about it now. You can hear it in my voice. I'm still mad. So eventually the mayor shows up, and she's like, "I can't believe that you did this. You've ruined my political career, blah, 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 blah." Never mind the 5 people that he's murdered. It's all about you, right? It's all about you. Okay? Nobody cares if a couple of hookers die. No, they're hookers. And without anyone in a room full of police, no one stops the mayor from reaching into her purse, pulling out a small revolver, and shooting her husband in the face. And then she's arrested, and that's it. That's how the movie ends. I don't know. I don't know. This movie is just insane. It's absolutely insane. I don't really recommend that you watch this movie unless you're into like really, really terrible, poorly acted fake sex scenes. I mean, if you're into that, you probably want to watch it. This movie is so terrible. It's not even on. It's not even like one of those so bad it's good movies, because it's not. It's just a terrible film. It's just poorly made, poorly acted, just bad. There's nothing redeeming about this movie. I don't have anything nice to say about this film. I haven't hated a movie on the show nearly as much as I did this. Like, the level that I hate the Bye Bye Man, like, that's still like my top tier level of crap. It's going to be hard to find anything that surpasses the Bye Bye Man in terms of being terrible. Zipperface is a close second to Bye Bye Man. But I mean, like, at least you could laugh at Zipperface for being bad, but, like, I don't know, maybe get drunk and laugh at it, but just don't watch it. Usually I would tell you to watch it, form your own opinion, make your own mind, but I'm going to tell you right now, do not watch this movie. This movie is absolutely not worth spending any time on. You shouldn't do that to yourself. That's what I'm for. So, looking ahead to the rest of this year, we'll get to next episode's movie. here in just a minute. Looking forward to the rest of the year. I'm hoping to spit out as many of these episodes as I can. So the problem with this show is that I have to watch these movies, and watching a 90-minute movie could take me 4 hours because I have to pause the movie and make my detailed notes, and it'll take me forever to get through a movie. And then the recording process will take around 2 hours. The editing process will take all day because I hate editing. I hate it so much. But, I work hard at what I do for you guys. So I'm going to try to spit out as many of these movies as I can. Thankfully, things have kind of slowed down in my personal life. I'm at a much happier, much better place than I was several months ago when I had some issues. Had sort of a breakdown of sorts. But I'm in a much better place now than I was then. And with my work schedule, I'm at a much better place to be working creatively than I have been in the last year or so. So I'm hoping to create more of this show. I've got another show that I'm kind of mixing around up in my brain. Hopefully I can get some stuff done with that, and hopefully I can get some more writing done this year as well. Make some stuff happen with that. So hopefully we'll be on a better track this year than we were last year, and I'm going to work harder, make the show better, get more episodes out for you guys, maybe, start working on building my empire. So, with that in mind, we look forward to our next episode featuring one of my favorite movies that I've ever seen. I watched the trailer for this movie long ago, was curious, and then rented the movie when it came out, and I gotta tell you, it's a real doozy. We are going to be checking out on our next episode the 2012 film ATM. Plot synopsis. On a late-night visit to an ATM, 3 co-workers end up in a desperate fight for their lives when they become trapped by an unknown man. The movie stars Alice Eve, Josh Peck, and Brian Garagati. Not sure how to say his last name. So, these people, on their way to like an office party or something, they have to stop at an ATM. This ATM is in a small building in the middle of a parking lot, and there's one ATM inside there. It's like a bus stop. It's like 2 bus stops turned into a building, and they put an ATM in between them. And all 3 of them go inside to this room. It's the middle of winter. It's cold. And all 3 of them are in this building, and then somehow end up locked inside, and they can't leave because there's a hooded dude standing in the parking lot, and he's like menacing them. And what the hell kind of plot is that for a movie? Well, you're going to find out next time. I hope that you enjoyed the time we spent together. I know I certainly enjoyed the time we spent together. And until next time, remember to keep your S-foils locked in attack position.